You're listening to Play Therapy Community Podcast, episode 59.
Welcome to Play Therapy Community Podcast, providing connection, information, and inspiration to child therapists all around the world. Here's your host, a licensed psychotherapist, a registered play therapist, and my mom, Jackie Flynn.
Hi there. Thank you for tuning into another episode of Play Therapy Community Podcast. I love meeting you guys like this. Well, our guest today is a really neat guy. I heard him on another podcast, Selling the Couch, which is one of my favorite podcasts of all times for being a private practitioner. And he's just really neat. He did something unique. He created a therapeutic board game. And I'm just going to have you introduce yourself, Ellis, and tell us all about you, your work, and how did this all come about?
Yeah, well, great. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Welcome.
Yeah, right now I'm a psychologist working in Oakland, California, and I work mostly with adolescents and adults as well. And yeah, I love board games and card games, and I really kind of wanted to start talking about this journey of creating this game by going all the way back to my own childhood, in which I played a ton of games growing up, all sorts of video games, card games, board games, with my older brother, with all of my friends. It was really the main way of relating and having fun and just having a good time when I was a kid. So I really developed a passion for gaming since I was really young. And so that sort of spilled over ultimately to the creation of this game and designing the whole thing.
So you integrated your kid part and your psychologist part, and this is
Absolutely.
what you got.
Yes, it's definitely a combination of my passions. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful when you can have fun while you're going through some tough stuff or experiencing, learning new skills. It can be so very amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've really found that games provide this really nice context for learning, and especially in a therapy context, I think, of exploring new skills and sort of stretching people to talk about or explore things within themselves that they wouldn't normally explore. So that's sort of part of my journey. I could continue to go on in terms of how I got the idea originally for the game.
Yes, tell us that. That's so interesting.
Yeah. So I guess I want to go fast forward a little bit to when I was studying psychology as an undergrad at UC Berkeley, and I was part of this program where we'd go into Napa State Hospital and we'd go in and play games with the patients there. And we were called recreational therapists. And it really seemed to make a difference to the people there. I remember we would play like Uno or just card games, games with dice, things like that. But I remember that the patients really reflecting to us how much just coming in once a week and playing games with them really made a difference in their lives. It was actually quite therapeutic for them to be able to bond with other people that way.
Yeah. Sounds very much like play therapy, just a way to truly connect with people on a deeper level.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other experience I wanted to talk about was in grad school. A lot of my internships I had at schools, working in schools, middle school and a high school. And in the therapy rooms, again, there was a lot of games there, similar games like Uno, different card games, chess, things like that. And the kids would love to play the games, and it was a great way to sort of build rapport, build a connection, get comfortable with the games with the kids. And there was also this game that we had that was called the Ungame.
Yes, I have that in my office.
Yeah, a lot of people do. It's a pretty popular one. And we'd use that, and we found that it was really nice because it was a therapeutic game, and the questions kind of brought out sides of the kids that they might normally feel comfortable talking to us about, things about their family or about the difficulties they were going through, things like that. So it really kind of got the wheels turning in my head that sort of having this context of a game could be really powerful therapeutically. especially working with like teens. So that was sort of when the wheels first started turning in my head for like, oh, maybe I can create a game myself that would be really therapeutic to work with kids.
Mm-hmm. And it creates a medium that kind of, if there's any kind of resistance or even anxiety around sharing their stuff with someone that they may not feel like they're, they understand that game is a great medium to be able to present these things in a way that doesn't feel like you're coming across as an authority figure or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're an equal in the game, and there's a lot of safety, I think, within the context of a game. So.
Mm-hmm. Now, I can't even imagine. I mean, before I heard your episode on Melvin's podcast, Selling the Couch, I was so in awe. I was like, where do you even get started? It seems like so exciting, but yet so intimidating, the process. So what was the process like to get that created?
Yeah. So when I first had the idea of the game, I kind of kept it in the back burner of my head for a while. I was still in graduate school and had a lot going on at the time, and I wasn't quite sure if I was actually going to follow through and go with it. But I eventually just decided to. I think the first thing I did was just write down or draw on a piece of paper like what I wanted the board to look like. What I wanted the cards to look like, what were the different pieces in the game to look like, and kind of get it all out on paper and visually see what it would be. From there, I decided to create a very rough prototype. I think the board was like made out of cardboard, and the cards I just like printed from my printer. Had some dice and some little jewel things as the bus pieces, and basically, I just tried to play it with anybody that would be willing to play the game with me.
Yes.
Friends.
Some guinea pigs.
Exactly, yes. Your friends, family, other colleagues.
They probably seen you coming from a mile away. They're probably like, there's Ellis in his game again.
Yeah, they're very aware of what I went through to create this thing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so a lot of good support from people helped me create it, and just testing it and seeing what was working, what wasn't working, getting people's feedback on it, and just keep continuing to revise everything, all the different pieces. Eventually, I reached a point where I thought it was pretty good, and I wanted to get like a professional version of the game done. And so I decided to hire a graphic designer to get the art done in the game. And so, I went through a process of kind of calling around, interviewing different ones, and shopping for a good graphic designer that I thought would meet the needs of the game. And yeah, the process a lot was working with her and going through a lot of different revisions of the game at that point, and the different art, and making sure that everything looked as I wanted it, and the wording on the cards was just as I wanted.
So there was a prototype. Sounds like you tweaked over and over again until it was just right, and then you decided to go forward with some professional support, which at that point cost some money.
Yes.
Yeah, but that you sounds like you felt pretty confident about it at that point, that it was ready to go forward.
Yeah, I was pretty confident with it. It was very small steps, one at a time, toward what I wanted. So it wasn't overwhelming. I just knew I just needed to get this one piece, together, and then this next piece, and this next piece. But yeah, getting the professional support, and the hardest part, the whole thing was actually finding the little bus pieces to use for the game, which was very difficult. Actually, I looked all over the internet in different shops and things to find just the right size bus for the.
Yeah. You usually don't find many buzz pieces that are like the games that just kind of random little figurines. So what did you do?
So what I eventually ended up doing was finding somebody who had a 3D printer, and
that's cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool actually, and got a bunch of different models for the bus, and eventually found one that was perfect for the size of the board, and yeah, went with him and created a whole bunch of those little pieces, custom made, 3D printed little buses.
Man, that's awesome. And I know it's connected with acceptance and commitment therapy. And can you tell us a little bit about that, how that's integrated into that game format?
Yeah, absolutely. So, another piece of sort of the creation of the game was my own mindfulness practice, which is something I've been practicing since maybe 10, 12 years ago, since I was a teen, actually. And when I got into graduate school, I was learning about all these different theories of psychology, and the one that really stood out to me was called acceptance and commitment therapy, and involves a lot of mindfulness practice for the clients. And the part of acceptance and commitment therapy, there's this thing called the hexaflex, which is sort of the 6 main processes of the therapy. And it looks, when I first looked at it, it looks almost like a board, like a game board when you look at the hexaflex. And so something kind of like light bulb popped into my head, like, this is kind of like, maybe I can create this theory into a game. It has like these 6 working pieces, and I can use all these pieces and integrate them into a game. So the creation of the game was sort of me also learning about acceptance commitment therapy and creating a game to help me kind of really understand it and get it down.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And so I guess just as a general overview, it's like the 6 basic pieces are acceptance, present moment, sense of observing yourself, diffusion, and then knowing your values and taking committed action on your values.
Oh, that's beautiful. Mindfulness. Wow. Acceptance and commitment therapy. And I'll put some links in the show notes too about where people can kind of learn more about that too. That sounds so interesting.
Yeah. I really love that, the theory, and practice it with clients. Yeah.
I think it's so creative too to be able to take that framework and that that diagram and think about it in terms of a game. It really sounds like it fit together nicely.
It really did. It really kind of just, in my mind, it seemed to fit together really, really easily. So, that's kind of how it came together.
And I don't think we mentioned the name of your game yet, all this talk.
Yeah. So I could talk a little bit about the game. So it's called The Mindful Bus. And so, I created a website for it, themindfulbus.com. And so the metaphor that underlines the whole game is based on this metaphor from acceptance and commitment therapy called the passengers on the bus metaphor, which goes a little bit like this, which is that you can imagine that your life is like a bus, and you are the bus driver. And your idea is to determine the direction you want your bus to go. And that direction, sort of the things that are important to you in your life, your values. But also on your bus, you have all these passengers. And those are sort of your thoughts, your feelings, your past experiences. It could be traumas. Oftentimes we have our parents on our bus. And those thoughts and feelings are kind of often come up and tell us and try to direct which direction the bus wants to go, so that this fear will come up and tell you to drive your bus in this direction or that direction. The idea is to sort of use these mindfulness skills to defuse from these passengers, unhelpful passengers, and come back to determining your direction that you want to go in your life.
Wow. Boy, that sounds like that could really kind of be like the entire framework of working with a client and really empower them to kind of work through their stuff in a different kind of way.
Yeah, exactly. It's very powerful metaphor. And it worked really well with sort of creating a metaphor to use for the game. And so that's sort of what I used as the underlying framework of the game. Yeah.
That's where the Mindful Bus was born, huh?
Yes, the Mindful Bus. Yeah.
Okay, so we have a lot of child therapists listening, child and family therapists,
Great.
and a lot of creative brains out there. And I know you have a creative brain. What are some tips that you have? If somebody has this idea brewing in the back of their mind, but they really don't know, kind of like with the place where you were when you were in grad school, that it was kind of on the back burner. What are some tips that you have for them that maybe are feeling intimidated by all the parts of the process?
Yeah. I would say to first of all, just to start easy and to start slow. Start with just kind of getting your idea out on paper, writing down or drawing a picture of what you want it to ultimately look like, and just start simple. I think if you think about all the steps and the huge process that it took, it can be overwhelming and you might not take any action. So just sort of breaking it down into little small pieces, I think, is a nice first thing.
Yeah, that reminds me of I used to teach middle school, and for the science projects, the kids that wait to the end, it just seemed like such a big overwhelming process. But the ones that did a little bit each time, slowly, inch by inch, it's a cinch, they were able to do it and not feel overwhelmed. So it sounds like that's the same kind of mindset. Just do it a little bit here and there and let it kind of evolve over time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think another piece too is just to sort of notice, maybe for me, there was a lot of sort of fears and like uncertainties about the whole process, and sort of noticing that, but also connecting to why you're doing it and what's kind of important to you about creating the product that you want to create. What do you want to serve, or what kind of gifts do you have that you want to kind of bring out into the world? For me, I think it was this passion of gaming that I had, that I really wanted to share with others, and this passion for mindfulness as well.
Yeah, it has greater meaning that way, and you can really kind of put your heart into it. It's not just an opportunity to have a product, but to really go deeper.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
it's where you get your best stuff.
Yeah. And that's what I tried to stay in touch with as I was creating this, because stay in touch with that passion and what I really wanted to do with it.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, I know you already mentioned your website, but if you could mention it again, and any other places where people could learn more about you, your services, and how to get the Mindful Bus, or whatever you want to mention here, to help people find you and benefit from what you have to offer.
Sure, yeah. So if you want to learn about me and my practice, the website for that is drellisedmunds.com. To get the game, there's a link there, but you can also go straight to themindfulbus.com. And I'm also on Facebook, facebook.com/Dr. Ellis Edmunds.
Okay, and I'll put all those links in the show notes as well. Thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
All right, you take care.
Okay, you too.
Bye-bye. Well, I hope you got as much out of that conversation as I did. He's so inspirational. I know as entrepreneurs and clinicians or professionals working with children and families, many of us have creative brains, and sometimes that means you have a gazillion ideas, and many of them do not actually come to fruition. The fact that he had the idea and he actually made it happen is huge. He's so inspirational. I'm actually creating a product right now based on the inspiration of hearing him on another podcast that I love, Selling the Couch. So if you haven't listened to that one yet and you are a private practitioner, that one is an excellent podcast. Now, if you want the show notes to this episode and get all of those links, you can find that at my website, playtherapycommunity.com. And I would love to have you in our Facebook group and to like our Facebook page, Play Therapy Community, and also Parenting in the Rain Community. And if you are an iTunes user, please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It means the world to me. Well, thank you so much for listening. And until next time, take care.
To join our growing community for free, just go to playtherapycommunity.com and find us on Facebook too.
Thanks for listening to the Play Therapy Community Podcast. Until next time, bye-bye.